Any better? Getting a little bit of noise out of that thing? Not enough. There we go. Ah. Right, hello everyone. Thank you for coming. Great turnout. Massive for the club that so many people are here to listen to what is really going on at this club so that you all have a better idea of what's going on. This night is for you. It's a chance for you to ask your questions, to get the answers that you want, and hopefully we can deliver that tonight. Just to give you a bit of a running order of how this is going to look, we're going to introduce you to the consortium and the people that are behind this club and driving it forward. We're going to hear from Dave, the chair. We're going to hear from Damien, the CEO. Take some questions that have been frequently asked, and then we're going to open it up to the room. Later on, you might have seen the playing squad are out training at the minute, getting ready for the weekend. Liam Finn will be coming and he'll be taking some questions as well. So hopefully you can put something, no doubt you've got. We'll wrap. Is it okay for everyone? Is this mic still working?
No, because you've got them both together.
Two in one hand, they're battling each other.
Let's try that. Is that better? Okay.
One down.
The technical faults.
Move away from it.
I'm going to move this one.
Turn it off.
Right, okay. So, let me first and foremost just introduce you to the consortium and the people who will be speaking tonight. So a round of applause, please. First of all, for Dave Grayson, our chairman. Damien Clayton, CEO. We've also got Ian Utley and Mark Bannister, who are directors of the club. And finally, Lee Kenny, who is the director of media and marketing. They're all going to go up now. Round of applause. I'm going to first and foremost, I'm going to hand over to Dave, have his say, and tell you a little bit about everything that's going on right now.
Thanks for that, Matt. Good evening, everybody. I'm just still trying to work out how the hell I'm going to get my little legs on this chair, but I'll stand up for a while. Just a bit of health and safety first, just in case we hear a fire alarm going off. There's no test tonight, so we don't need to leave the building. Second thing is, I just really want to, thanks for the introductions, but I'd just like to make a point about the introductions in terms of volunteer, 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 volunteer. Everybody has an opinion, and you probably find with all of us that we're very respectful of that opinion. The only thing we would ask as a board tonight is that whatever that opinion is, please get that out there. But would you mind doing it professionally and appropriately, please? So, my bit, I think, is really around explaining the reality of the situation and the perception and context as to where the club's at, and indeed to start with where the game's at. I think we just need to realise that rugby league is not a flourishing sport like others, and over the last few years that has really taken a turn for me around a real challenge, not just for Halifax but for all the clubs. So I'll give you an example of that in terms of the Sky money, which is the key driver within funding for rugby league. When Nigel Wood was on board as the CEO of the RFL, that Sky deal was £40 million approximately. Our current deal is 20 million. So that's half in terms of the money. Now that money is what's used for what they call the rugby league distribution monies for all clubs. So that's our bread and butter. So a lot of clubs in the past have just used that distribution money to trade on and not been as good as we've been over the years in terms of commercial work and adding to that. However, we felt that as most of the clubs have done. So just as an example, if you can cast your mind back to the middle eights, I think Richard Marshall was here then, well, we did quite well and we actually got out of that 40 million at the time, £750,000 distribution money for a year, which is a good number. To put that in context, which is what I'm trying to do at the moment for you, our current distribution at the 20 million is 100,000. So you can see, for those of you that are in business, from a cash flow point of view there straight away, there's a significant drop in the numbers that are coming through from distribution. League One clubs, again to put in context, they get 75,000. Our budget was expected to be 140,000. We've got to do that budget way before we finish the season, so we have to put a bit of a finger in the air as to where we think we're going to finish. Last season we didn't finish in the top 6, that cost us another 40,000. So that's Championship and League One for you, and that's where we're at. That's the reality of the situation, and we have been since 2003. Our Super League friends, their distribution's also gone down, but they're now working on approximately 1.5 million a season. So if you can see where we're at in terms of the 1.5 to the 100,000, we've got to be a lot smarter in terms of as a Championship club. So those Super League clubs, again just to put into context, the last accounting year, those Super League clubs between them managed to lose £12 million on their accounts, so an average of £1 million. Just listen for that phone. I thought you were a Super League director in here. Shut up, Grayson. So, £12 million loss is a big number, and that's cascaded throughout the Championship and throughout League One, and we are not an exception to that. So, I'm not going to go into numbers. I have absolutely no intention of going into numbers regarding where we're at takeover and things like that. That's not where we need to be. What we need to look at is how challenging it is for our club, and has been for a long number of years, and what we can do to remedy that. So, coupled with the general outline of the game, we also as a club this year have found, since Steve's left, who I have a lot of time for, did a fantastic job for us on commercial over a long number of years, we've struggled a little bit with that, and we're working our way through it. We've appointed Rachel Garrett now, and hopefully he'll take that to a new level, and I'm sure she will over time, but it's over time. That needs building. Clearly, if you come watch us on a regular basis, you'll notice that the crowds are falling in terms of numbers. We'll let Liam talk to you about the rugby side. I don't intend to get involved in that, but results game at the end of the day, I think the big message here is this isn't just a standalone normal business, it's actually a rugby club. We are a rugby club, so we're all passionate about all the other things that go on, and certainly as a board we are, and we're looking at that strategically going forward, but at the end of the day, we all want to see the blue and white win, don't we? That's what it's about. So it's disappointing when it doesn't happen, but that's what happens, that's sport, and unfortunately we're at that point at the minute. So we've put out a lot of different packages and offers to try supplement that income and that hole that I've talked to you about. It's one of the reasons why I asked Lee to come back on board as media marketing director. I'm not so sure, and you can correct me on this, I don't mind, but whether everybody knows what the packages are that we've got. There's all sorts of different things that we're privy to, but I think we need to market that better, and hopefully something somewhere, like we had the members night, which was a great success. Not overburdening in terms of monetary value, but what a fantastic night that was for those people that were here. We need to do more of those sort of things. I think we've had the hole in the numbers, to be brutally honest, and I am going to be honest with you, for those that you know me, I will always give you an honest answer to an honest question. This consortium have put in just short of £500,000 to close that hole that I've talked to you about. So I personally feel they deserve a round of applause for that. To put no finer point on it, I don't think we'd have a rugby club if they hadn't done that. I'll be brutally honest. I think they've just done absolutely everything they can to make sure this club survives, and are indeed still putting in. However, And another reason why we're at where we're at is that consortium has halved in numbers since October 2022. So these chaps that are up here, sat here tonight, plus Richard Durgan, who's not here tonight, they're actually having to put more in to compensate for that. So we're clearly looking at the complete other end of the spectrum, from the £100 bit to investors in the club to help. So hopefully my message is getting through there in terms of off the field. Now, that's realistically where we're at. At some point, Damien will come and tell you the good stuff that's been going on in terms of trying to risk mitigate that. But just at the moment, I wanted to get that message across, so hopefully I've done that. On the field, again, Liam will pick up on this, but some of you may agree or disagree. I just think we've been unbelievably unlucky with injuries. If you look at the people that are not available for us at the moment, Calcott, Crooks, O'Brien, Tom Inman now, you know, broke his jaw, and the guy that did it got a one-match ban. But for us, you know, that lad's been ripping it up for us and has got a fantastic career in front of him. But, you know, and also he's a Halifax lad from King Cross, you know, with one of our community clubs, which we're very grateful for their support. But, you know, there's another talent that's not playing, and obviously Connor Davis is another one that's injured himself. Greg Egan's obviously not with the club anymore, so you're looking at 6 players there. So you're looking at 6 players there that, for me, would walk in to any of the championship sides, the quality. And whether we made a mistake or not, and I'll come on to that later, but in terms of our recruitment policy, we went for quality, and we spent probably 25% more on this year's budget than last year's budget. And it's just not come off for us, because I think if those lads had been playing, I think we'd have been having a completely different conversation than what we're having at the moment, certainly on the field. And it's unfair, you know, I'm giving Liam the chairman's kiss of death here, I know I am, but I am going to support him and say that he's 7 games in, he's lost half a dozen players, we're lacking confidence at the minute, and we need to support that lad for him to get to where he needs to get to. If we're much further down the season and we're still in the same boat, we might be having a different conversation, but it's far too early yet at the moment. And if you analyse those 7 games, of which we've won 2, 4 that we've lost against are all in the top 5. There's only Wakefield left that we haven't played. So, kind of playing teams that are in form and are going well, we're not. And that's, you know, we've obviously been punished for that. I don't know anybody who went to Featherstone, but certainly in the first half, I thought we looked a lot sharper, we looked a lot more like it. And I think, you know, that's about that confidence and building that up, and Liam's obviously got to get his selection right with the players that he's got. And the spirit's still good there. So again, for him, you know, he's certainly got myself and the support of the board, so I just need to make that clear. I think the only other thing for me was, again, back to the unbelievably unlucky, was with dual reg with Leeds, who were number 1 in IMG World, which I'm sure we'll come on to at some point, but they were the highest scorers in the indicative point scoring. We'd got to connect there with Scott Griggs, and it made sense for us to do that, and, you know, Rowan was very, very helpful in terms of wanting to support that. They've also had the same issue around injury to players. So it's how you kick a man when he's down, and we're definitely getting that at the minute. But, and I'll try to finish on a positive, that sport, and things do happen, and things will come right, I'm absolutely certain of that. And I know there's lots of comments about we're all off to Cornwall next season and all that. Well, enjoy your holiday, because we'll be in the championship next season. Thanks very much, I'm going to hand over to David.
Dave, thank you. Ladies and gents, good evening. And for those that I don't know, I just want to give you a bit of a brief background on why I'm stood here this evening. So, Royal Air Force, 37 years, down the Falklands this time last year. And I got a phone call from Simon Griggs actually saying, obviously the club wanted to talk to you about leaving the Royal Air Force and coming in as CEO. I was like, I'm not after the Royal Air Force is fantastic, got 5 years left to serve, and it's happy days. I just do my chores and crack on and spend most of my time away from my wife during the week. It's great, just small weekends, what I want. So anyhow, I met with Dave when I came back from the Falklands, and with the consortium, we got to a place where I was like, okay, I'm going to commit, I'm going to leave the Royal Air Force, and I'm going to commit to Halifax Panthers and be the CEO. I'm looking now to join back up. He says. So one of the first jobs when I came in was like do a SWOT analysis on the club. I got back, like I say, about June, and Richard Durban says, can you come in like a couple of days a week? And I thought it was important to do a SWOT analysis on the club and really understand where the club was at. All aspects of the club, whether it's the performance side, the commercial, operational, and the media and marketing side. So I did that SWOT analysis, I presented it to the board of directors, and then got after it really. So what I want to do tonight, obviously before your questions, is really really champion some of the stuff what's been going on, been driven by all kinds of people. And the first one on the list is the stand-up of the Halifax Panthers Foundation. That got across the line in early January, but there was lots of conversations at the back end of last year. Currently there's a CCCT, they have the CIC, and the Panthers as a foundation need to stand up, not just for IMG players. It was about the foundation making a positive difference to the people of Calderdale. We've got John Keys here, who's the father of our captain, Joe Keys, who was driving that foundation forward with the chair of the trustees, a guy called Danny Hutchinson, doing some real positive work. We had a meeting yesterday with the CCCT, and that's moving in the direction I would suggest by... It's the Calderdale Community Coaching Trust. Okay, so it's like, sorry, it's military acronyms. Yeah, I didn't know what it meant. I'm just looking at the car with the back and she told me, and I was like, happy days. So we had a real positive meeting the other day, and it looks like once that heritage bid that they're delivering currently, we've got a line in the sand where we're transitioning towards the CCCT into the foundation, and there's real positive stuff making a difference to the people of Calderdale, and they're getting out there, and it's not just about rugby league football, it's about young people, knife crime, violence against women. It's everything from young kids, young Johnny to Grandad Joe over there, and we really want to make a difference, and the foundation standing up with Nathan as well, delivering some real positive work. It's part of our community engagement. So obviously the community engagement, we've got 8 clubs, and Cara's doing a fantastic job. You'll see there on match days where the young kids from the community clubs are attending our fixtures, and they're getting exposed to rugby league in the championship. But also what it's doing is it's generating a better atmosphere. We're getting the kids down, and that's what it's all about. And you know what? It's not just about. We're looking at all cultures. You know, I had a fantastic meeting with a guy called Gugsy up Parkinson Lane in the Asian community. And Ikram Butt, you remember him playing professional Ikram, he introduced me to him and went up there. We had a great meeting, and just to expose Halifax Panthers, our brand, within that community and that other culture, is what we're wanting to do. It's not, I'm talking about things off the field here. I'm talking about us as a brand and as a club. And getting, you know, when I was a young boy at Brighouse, Halifax was renowned as a rugby league town. I come back from the Falklands and I walk down that town and I can't see. You wouldn't know that Halifax Panthers exist, or the football club. So part of my intent is really to get the brand of Halifax Panthers really embedded within our community and our businesses. We talk about being inclusive. The LDRL team participated in the first festival last week, and they won all the games, and you might have seen it on social media. But it's an absolute fantastic opportunity to champion and expose those people to rugby league football and wearing the blue and white of Halifax and doing well. And if you hadn't won, it didn't matter, because they participated, and the joy on their faces that I saw through the social media was something of awe, really. And we, through the club, through the foundation, have given them an opportunity to do that. And I think that's worth championing as well. You'll see, obviously, the wheelchair team is so successful anyway. But again, they're back under they sit under a pillar in the foundation. back under the guise of the Rugby League Club, of Halifax Panthers. It's our brand. We need to have a say in what goes on there and to maintain the standards of what's associated with our badge, because that's really important for me as well, and the club. Women, Amy Hardcastle, coming in as the Women and Girls Development Officer. In her own right, she's an international Rugby League player. She commands a lot of respect and a lot of eyes on her through the game of Rugby League. She's back in the roots of Halifax, started her career at Civil, and she's in here with us, running the women's team. We had a very successful first game. I think Cara got the number 10 shirt, and I think she scored a try, I believe, in that one.
I didn't.
But again, something else to celebrate, really. I've had a few conversations with our education partners up at Collier College. A guy called Craig Waterworth is a good guy. And when I was here, I think it's Steve Lambert and Dave Grayson did the deal with the college 2-3 years ago, a memorandum of understanding and the relationship with them. That was coming to an end, and I went up to see Craig, and he's quite a big bird of lad, and I was like, hell, here we go. And anyway, what a lovely fella. And we've met, and when the atmospherics when I first went was that the Panthers weren't actually delivering their side of the bargain. So I looked at the MOU, I read it, I went up to see him, I was like, right, where are we falling down here, Craig, and he let us know. Where we're at right now is that I can confidently go to a meeting with Craig and his staff up at the college, and I'm sat there with my chin up and my shoulders back going, we're delivering on our side of the bargain now. It's the college who are delivering on theirs. And that relationship with the college is it's necessary. What it does, it provides that pathway for us. We've just rolled out the Panthers Talent Pathway, which is under 15s and under 16s boys, and we've got Anthony Irving who's delivering that with other coaches. It was absolutely fantastically received. We had 80 boys from around Halifax who ended up 4 training sessions, good coaching sessions, ended up playing over in Leeds at Kirkstall against Leeds Rhinos and Oldham. An absolute fantastic occasion, and it brought them on as young men. So on the back of that, we've got our next set. We've got under 14s, under 15s, under 16s. But what that also does, it provides a pathway through the college into the academy. So the feedback I got was that there was 2 young boys who were going to go to Kirklees College. On the back of our Panthers Talent Pathway, they're now going to Calderdale because we expose them to that environment. It's easy for them to go there now, and I think it's important for the town of Halifax. It's important for our education provider and our partner. Business club. Again, I briefly mentioned about having a presence in the town. I want the businesses in this town. We all want the businesses in town to be part of the Panthers family, and it doesn't have to be a financial contribution. Of course, they've just explained the left and right of arc with that. It's tough, but it's other ways that they can help. We had our first business club last week, and it was set up like this. There was probably 65, 70 business people in the room, and it wasn't a big sell. It was like we just launched our business club, our new initiative, and it was well received. Where it will go, I'm not too sure, but the first signs are really positive. I talk about, we did one of the first jobs I came in, actually, before I started, we did a new tender for the new kit deal. And I'll be honest, the reason behind we did that was because I couldn't get hands on a document that said a tender process had been happened previously, and I just wanted to assure myself that actually we go through the right process and we do X, Y, and Z. So we invited maybe six people to businesses to tender for it, and we went through and we evaluated the scores and all that type of stuff. Anyway, we got to a stage where our new kit provider, Oryx GB Total Solutions, is from Westvale, and Westvale that was like one of the reasons why they scored a little bit higher on some things, because they're from Westvale. They're Halifax. I talked about getting the business involved and it being the beating heart of the community. Have we got it right? Oryx, you've all seen the shirts getting ripped out there, and Cora, we've been back for it. But you know what? It's a journey. And no, we haven't got it right now. But we will get it right. We'll work together. And with a local business, we will drive that forward. You'll all just see, I mean, Roger Harvey sat there, he didn't have much to do with the deal. I went to see Tracy's daughter about getting our merchandise into the department store in Halifax. How on earth can we not have it there? We have now. Which I think that's a real positive move forward in that, you know, we don't have to, and Michaela's sat in the back there, she'll tell you, we've done an analysis when the shop takes money. Tuesdays and Thursdays, Michaela sat there and they're twiddling the thumbs talking to herself, going bonkers, right? But now we can access our merch online, or 6 days a week, or actually on match days when we really do our business. And then we've got analysis what demonstrate data. So we're making decisions based on fact. Not just, well, I think I might sell more on a Wednesday. No. We don't sell a lot on Tuesday, we don't sell a lot on Thursday. We sell a lot on match days. Do you know what? We got bagged about that shirt when that shirt got launched. You'll never sell that shirt. You need to withdraw it, it's rubbish. We've sold 520 replica shirts this season. And it's we're in May. I think that's a fantastic achievement. That's like a third of our aggregated home attendance here. A third of the people who bought that new shirt, but it's on the way. Now someone's so because I'm a data, you know, I work on data, I work on facts. That's been my life, and I'm like, well, show me how many shirts we sold in the previous 10 years. I couldn't get that data. I couldn't get that evidence. But I think what we've done so far, and actually the deal what we've got going with Oryx, it's less risk for the club. I can't go into the ins and outs of a contract and stuff, but there's less risk for the club financially. Of course, did that shape some of the decision making? Absolutely it did. Because the club financially doesn't need any more risk. It needs less risk. Supporters, I'll crack on in a minute, but it's really important. You know, I talk to my wife about supporters and fans. What's the difference between a supporter and fans? I think we all have probably a different opinion on that. But if you look at the word support, it's about supporting the club. And we've tried to, in the last 5-6 months, roll out some new initiatives, which have been moderately well received. The members now, we talked about the launch, Dave talked about the launch, that went really well for those, but the members, if the number of people what are members, I was like, I thought we'd have had more of them, but maybe that's me managing my expectations. Squad Builder, fantastic initiative and fantastic support we get from the supporters. Patron deal, patron offer, we haven't advertised it a lot, and that's a big commitment, more for business side, but there might be some people what. I'm talking about supporters and fans. I had a guy email me, and he says, the club, just before I arrived, the club sent out a calling notice. It was Kitchener, your club needs you. And we got some response to that. So I picked that up from Dave Grayson, and I contacted the people and said, look, you know, what skill sets have you got? And I don't really know, I just want to help the club. So I'm like, I don't know how you can help us, because I need to understand what your capabilities are. So anyway, this guy came in. He came and see me, he sat in the office upstairs and we went through it. And I said, look, it's Dan there, right? So he said, look, he said, I just want to make a difference. I said, well, I don't know what job I've got. Anyway, cut long story short, as we're talking, we're going out, we went down to the boot room. I said, what do you do then? He said, I work for JLA. I said, what do they do? He said, it's a laundry business. He said, you've gone outside. I went, hey. I said, come downstairs. I went and showed him, they'll do like this. I said, I said, have a look at that old washing machine. He went, oh. Within 2 hours, he negotiated a deal with his boss and sat downstairs, it's £4,000 of equipment. I said, that's making a difference to this club. It isn't just financial. So Dan then said, well, do you know what? I understand how these work. He says, I'll wash your kit if you want. Okay. So I spoke to Sean. Sean don't wash kit. I went, who's going to wash kit? Dan can wash kit. Rip kit. Not all of them ripped. So Dan does the kit, and then it progresses. Then what? He says, you know what? I've got works on here. He says, I know Sean goes in car and all kit has to go on bus on for away games. He said, if I take my man, he said, that'll save the trouble for Sean, won't it? And it looks more professional because kit arrives before players there. I went down. I said, you've added value, mate. That's what we want. So supporting the club, indirectly and directly. Well done, Dan. So I'll quickly crack on. Volunteers are absolutely essential, and again, it's supporting the club in a non-fiscal way, and I'm sure with some of the capability what's out there, we can use your help and new help. But just to show you, that our volunteers, I was like, where's our safeguarding policies? Okay, and we have the safeguarding policies, and I was like, well, show me where they've signed for them. And all that due diligence sat behind running a professional rugby league club. I've got John Keys here, who's done it all down in London, and we met, and we're like pretty much on the same page in what we wanted and expected of our due diligence. So this year, all our volunteers, they're all safeguarded, DBS checked, signed off, right? Because if we're going to get caught outside of on that pitch, it'll be things like that. And I want to assure myself that I've done everything in my gift to square that away. So, the volunteer charter, it might sound a little bit cheesy, a little bit over the top, but it's important for me. These are our standards. This is how I want us to do business. All right? And if not, if you're not capable, I'll give you some training, but I'm going to hold you accountable as well. All right? Because you're in a very privileged position. I mean, Sean, is in probably the most privileged position volunteer at this club. Because he gets access to behind the scenes what a lot of supporters and fans want, you know, and I class it as privilege. So I'm not going to hold him accountable. Absolutely I am. I could put a post out there and I'd get 10. I'm actually asking my brother-in-law to apply for it, but he's not able to time keeping like, you know, postman like rubbish, you can't even sort his tachograph out. Rubbish. So the future, what's it look like for me? IMG, obviously that'll probably come on. Future, I'm all for change. I want to embrace change. You know, you'll have heard that there's an opportunity for the stadium. The acquisition of the stadium, we're working hard behind the scenes, myself, Dave Grayson, with the football club and the council to see what that looks like moving forward. Lots and lots of due diligence going on behind the scenes there. But you know what? It's a fantastic opportunity for this club. When you talk about IMG points, if the rugby club, if you looked in the future, the rugby club had primacy of tenure for this stadium, and we can get some money from the bars or the food and all that type of stuff, we can make the car park work for us and all that type. It's a different level. But we're not there yet. Don't want to talk too much about that. And being a military man, of course, we've got a mission, and I set myself the mission straight away. I was like, we want to be best in class. We want to be best in class. Everything that we do, we need to be best in class. And the staff at the back, you know, Sarah, Cara, even Richard, Cash Facts, he ain't got an office anymore, he got kicked out of his office. Everything, we strive to be best in class. I'm sure the boys at the back there, the players, they want to be best in class on the pitch, but I want to make sure that we're best in class off it. Are we there yet? No. But I'll tell you what, we're striving towards it with a passion, and we're getting there, and we're driving there. Every time I will challenge the staff to be best in class. Whether that's sending a letter, squaring the photocopier away, or just making sure the office is tidy if anyone comes up there, because that's how we do business. So, looking forward, yeah, it's going to be challenging, but I want to leave you with this. We're not only about scoring tries and winning games, it's about building a stronger community, foundation, developing a sense of belonging with this club, and fostering unity and making a positive impact to people's lives. That's what we're about, that's what I'm about, and I would like us to do that together as a collaboration with you guys, our supporters. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Damien and Dave, for their words. We're just going to have a slight change to the schedule, because you may have noticed that our head coach, Liam Finn, is here. Some of the players are in the back, if you didn't notice them coming in. I think it's fantastic that they're taking an interest in what's going on and off the field. So thank you to the players. Can I introduce up to the stage our head coach, Liam Finn. Liam, that was a lot warmer reception than you got earlier on when you were on chip back and assure you. You should have heard what Dave was saying about you. In all seriousness, thank you for your time. I'm sure everyone really appreciates this. Talk us through your time at the club so far. It's been eventful. I know it's not all been smooth sailing. Talk us through your assessment of how everything's gone so far.
Yeah, obviously it's been far from plain sailing. It's been probably the opposite. It's been pretty choppy waters and tough. But what I will say at the minute, as much as we're sort of down to the bare bones playing wise, we're whittling it down to a group of people who want to pull on a blue and white shirt and that are not just here to tick a box and play for another year or pick up some wages. And some of that's through myself and the club and trying to identify and get there. And if anything, when you're struggling, that becomes a lot more obvious than when you're winning it and masking a few issues in there. And some of them are clear to see and making it a little bit difficult. But at the same time, as I just alluded to, the group at the minute is taking shape in terms of pride in playing for Halifax and pride in pulling on the shirt and wanting to stick together and the true colours of the leadership, if you want, and the people who've probably been here longer term are starting to shine through and clearly we need to start winning games on the field, and that's what we're aiming to do and transfer what we're doing out on the training field onto the field. But as much as it's been a challenge, it's been really enjoyable and I'm really enjoying it and loving it. I'd love it even more with a win on Sunday, but it's part of the journey and it's part of the toughness of being either a rugby league player or a rugby league coach or a rugby league fan. And as an Halifax fan, it's not plain sailing, and sometimes you have tough times and sometimes you have good times, and at the minute it's a little bit tough, but we're finding out a lot about ourselves as a club, myself as a coach and the group as a playing group.
It's been brilliant to see some contract news in recent days. We know that Tom is now staying for the long term, which is a great piece of business. The other way, and one of the big talking points in the last week or so has been Greg Eden. We now know he's left the club. Can you just give us some insight into what happened there and what has resulted in him leaving the club prematurely?
Yeah, Greg was struggling a little bit with the move from full time to part time, which sounds easy, doesn't it? Full time to part time. It's the opposite. It's going from effectively being a rugby player and finishing work at between 12 and 1 o'clock on 3 or 4 days a week and having 2 or 3 days off to starting training, going to work through the day and starting a joinery apprenticeship or grafting on the tools and then finishing at 4:30 and battling through traffic to come over here. And as we see with a few people that come out of Super League, it takes a little bit of time to adjust, and he wasn't doing particularly well and was struggling with the travel and clearly wasn't getting the best out of him or getting him on the field, and in a few ways, without being disrespectful, he's probably done us a favour. He might as well watch games in a Featherstone tracksuit than an Halifax tracksuit.
Obviously, he's one of a couple that have left since your arrival, Brandon Maud, Dan Murray. I think it's been well documented that it's quite a small squad and the injuries are really showing that as well, and it's making it difficult. I know you've been short on numbers and Leeds as well, and their issues haven't helped. How much has that been in your thinking in making some of the decisions, squad depth and everything else, and obviously looking for players to come into the squad as well?
Yeah, obviously those decisions were made with fit players in their position, where you didn't foresee losing 2 hookers and falling back on Brandon, and at the same time a little bit of respect for Brandon and what he's done for the club over the past 10 years, and what a warrior he'd been, and it was difficult to tell him he wasn't going to be first choice, and he might struggle to make the 17, and he wanted to stay and fight for his place. Like the true sort of warrior that he is, and a little bit similar sort of stuff. Work-life balance got on top of him a little bit, and I think with the potential of not being like the starting hooker that year, that coming over and travelling over can start to get on top of you a little bit, and a few personal things that he needed to deal with, and he came to see me and asked if he could leave and move closer to home, and I think that one's a different scenario to Greg's. That one's an absolute respect for a guy who's put blood and guts into the shirt, and if he requests to go because he wants to play every week, I couldn't really stand in his way. Days was a little bit different again. At the same time, we had plenty of props available, and he was struggling in my eyes of what I wanted from him. And when he came to ask me about where his position was, he was a little bit down the pecking order. And again, he said he's got to that sort of age where he wants to play every week. And again, in hindsight's a wonderful thing. We should have probably held on to him, thinking. But nobody knows how many injuries you're going to get and what position you're going to get them in. So you live by the sword, you die by the sword, and you make the decisions at the time that you think are right. If they turn out right, you're a hero. If they turn out wrong, you're a villain, and that's just how it is.
Before I open it up to the floor, just one more question for me. What about players coming in? Obviously, a lot have gone out, squad is short. Are you close? Are you actively looking for recruits now?
Yeah, all the time, yeah. Was very busy last week trying to get hold of a replacement for Greg, an outside back, and ringing round at everybody, and not as easy as you think. And at the same time, some of the people that are on offer, they're on offer for a reason. This time of year, there's not many good players and good lads that are not playing somewhere unless they're a very wealthy club and they've got a lot of players sat on the sideline, so it's tough. But we're actively looking, and we're always trying to improve ourselves, like we did with Corey coming in at short notice when we learnt about Tom, and again talking about Tom and Connor. We talk about people wanting to play for the club and wanting to be to show what they're about. Them two, you can't argue. Tom played the last 20 minutes against Featherstone with a broken jaw, so it just shows you how tough of a lad he is after playing 80 minutes for the last 8 to 10 weeks. Played the last 20 with a broken jaw, ate a pizza afterwards as well. And Connor similar. He broke his scaphoid in the first 20 minutes, got it taped up and finished the game. So those are the types of people that I want here, and I'm sure that most people in this room want those types of people that are going to push through and play beyond the pain barrier and show what it means to play for the club.
Brilliant. I think we can all agree with that. Okay, I'm not going to keep Liam up on stage all night. I know he's got plenty to do, but open to questions. Does anyone have a question? Straight away, that was a quick hand. Let me bring the mic over to you, sir.
I don't know if this is a question for you, Liam, or for the directors, but it seems like every club in the Championship, bar ourselves, is augmenting their squad with fringe reserve Super League players, and we are not. May I ask, is that your decision or the board's decision?
It's a collective decision, that ultimately the buck stops with me in terms of which players we want or we sign. There's opportunities to sign people, or people's names get thrown in from different angles. Damien might get a phone call, or Richard Durgan might get a phone call, or I might get a phone call, and players that are mentioned and agents will speak to them. If I'm honest with you, I think I don't think lots of Super League, ex-Super League players is the way forward in the Championship, as I've just spoken about.
Sorry to interrupt. Even on a short-term basis, while we get our Indian bodies back.
Oh yeah, well yeah, we are looking in that market. That's why we brought Corey in from Leeds Rhinos. So, I'm a bit lost now. But in terms of just general signings, I think it's tough for Super League players to adjust, and I think you've got a 12-month adjustment period. But in terms of looking at fringe Super League players, yeah, we are doing, and I've been on the phone to most of them this week trying to get an outside back. And most of them don't really want to part with them, and not the answer that you get most of the time is, yeah, we want to get so-and-so out on loan, but it's probably going to be in a couple of weeks, and that's usually the pushback you get, but we will keep chipping away and banging at those doors and trying to get those types of players in the short term, yeah.
Any other questions? Sorry, Lee.
I just wondered if that answered or not.
Sort of. Yes, but I think big examples of other teams, if I may name names, who've signed fringe Super League. It's like, for example, Bradford signed Fenton Rodgers, a big guy with a bit of aggression, which, in my untrained eyes, would have helped our team, for example. That's just one example. But my opinion is, I said, my untrained eyes, that we could have been more active in bringing in people in the short term to plug the gaps that the injuries have created.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not really sure how to answer it. But we are constantly looking. One thing I am a little bit proud of this year is that we haven't done what Bradford did, for example, and absolutely panicked, shit herself, and signed 10 or 11 players and knocked back the squad that we've got. To me, you can say what you want about the current squad, but that's the squad we started the season with, and I want to back them to get as much as we can out of them and try and get as far as we can. With that being said, at the same time, it's thin, and we have to be looking for players to thicken it out a little bit. And as much as I've got an opinion on where they should come from and what they should ultimately, the good people and the good players, we're prepared to look anywhere.
Any further questions? Keep this on field. We will be taking questions from Dave and Damien later on. Any other questions about rugby matters that people have?
Yeah, just one. How far away are Adam O'Brien, Crooks, away from coming back?
Adam O'Brien is done his first session on the field with the group tonight, which he's probably three to 4 weeks away. I think the Toulouse game would be a push, but we'll assess it closer to the time. And obviously after the Toulouse game, we've got another 2 weeks before we play again. So the sensible thing will probably be to look towards the Barrow game. But he's getting there. He's not far off. Crooksy has been a difficult one because it's sort of a Liz Frank in his foot, which is a difficult bone to first of all diagnose and then treat, and it all sorts of complications with it, and getting an actual proper diagnosis has been tough. And it's been 1 minute he'll be back in 6 weeks, then he's gone for 12 months, and the latest thing is 6 weeks in a boot, and then another 6 weeks rehabbing it, and then we've got to reassess, but hopefully it'll be somewhere nearby then. So it's still very, very grey area, which Crooks is frustrated with, and we are at the same time.
Any further questions?
Well, at the minute we're ironing out the details of it, the complication with him, with the deal through how it was done with him on loan at Bradford and stuff like that. But the agreement we've got in place is for the rest of the season. We're just making sure that we do the due diligence and the paperwork to make sure that's confirmed. That's right, isn't it, Damo?
I think we've got a question from Hilda, the legend that is. Hilda, over to you.
Sorry about this, kid. It's something that's been worrying me, annoying me, nattering me, whatever you want to say. But you are the first coach that we have had over many years that's actually on a match day at home, you're downstairs, and then I've been hearing that you go over to South Stand and you come up here as well before the game. Do you think it's wise, or is it your choice? Or I can't get my head round it, Liam. I've never known another coach do this. Not at Halifax anyway. Richard, Matt Callan, go back as far as you want. Nobody has done that. Is it your choice or the club's choice?
No, they just said because I'm the best looking one out of them all.
No, it was something that David asked me to do, and I haven't got an issue doing it at all. I address the players before the game when they meet. The assistant coaches and conditioner generally do the warm up. I'm not involved in the warm up, and it's a quick 5 minutes out of my match day to give my thoughts pre-game. I'll be honest, that pre-game one's easy at the minute. It's the post-match one that I'm struggling with.
Don't you think it affects the lads when you're not there?
No, because when I've delivered what I've delivered all week, I think they're sick to death of the sound of my voice, to be perfectly honest. And by that time, there's not an awful lot I can do. You know, if they're not prepared by quarter to 2, 2 o'clock on a Sunday, I haven't done my job properly, and they need to take ownership of that and start to communicate between themselves and make sure that they're in charge of what they do on the field. So it's not really a major issue for me.
Okay, we're going to make this the last question. Okay, here we go.
It's just a follow on from that lady actually. If you watch, say, Premier League football, just to your point, people like Jurgen Klopp, he's in that technical area, absolutely up and down like yo-yo the entire game, and I'm sure he's prepared his players. But he's there at the side of the pitch. His presence is felt, you know, and I think at a time like now, when the team have been struggling a bit, for me, you know, as an ex-leader, as a business person, I'd want to be right up front with the guys. You know, I think the fans would really appreciate seeing that, to be honest.
Not really a question, more of a statement. But yeah, I take your opinion. I think football, completely different sport, and there's a lot less going on in that area. When you're playing rugby, there's these active interchanges going on all the time, and physios on and off with messages, and it's not the easiest place to watch a game from on the side of the pitch. I don't know what the opinion of football managers is and why they do it, but I just know that being further up, being able to see what I can see a little bit better from a better angle, I think suits me a little bit, and suits majority of rugby league coaches. Not all of them. Some do stand down on the sideline, and it's probably what I'm comfortable with, and I'm not sure, in my opinion, it would have that much value, and many of them would be influenced by me being stood there. But again, I take your point.
Really. Very last question, and then I'm going to let you go.
Yeah, and initially I was going to ask about the injury situation, but that was answered. But I would like to make one point that the RFL have a lot to answer for this season. In their infinite wisdom, they created a season where we were 2 months into the season before we actually started playing the league. We picked up a lot of injuries in one game, a game which was against an amateur club. Previously we've had a bigger squad and we've been able to maybe rest a few of the first choice players. But this season has really crucified us injury wise for that very reason. And the other part of that is, I don't know how the board managed to pay the bills with virtually no money coming in for 2 months.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I think the only sort of grey area with that, I don't think it was 100% the RFL's decision. I think it was a joint decision with the dropouts, teams dropping out from League One, and trying to get some fixtures to make sure that those clubs didn't die off. And I think it was a rush decision, and it was the wrong one, without a doubt. And I think it was a costly one for a lot of teams. And again, as much as you want to do well in the cups, your league's a priority, and if you start the league season first and you get 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games into the season with a few cup games interspersed in there, and you have a patch like we're having at the minute, you could use them cup games to say we're either going to have a crack at the cup, or we ain't got the squad to do it. We'll not forfeit. You never forfeit a game, but decide what your priorities are, and we didn't really get that opportunity this year. So it was the wrong decision, but it wasn't all the RFL. I think some of the clubs were partly involved with that decision, and I think ultimately it became a rush decision, which again in hindsight is a poor one.
Liam will let you go out of the hot seat. Round of applause for your head coach, Liam King. Just going to introduce Dave, Damien and the consortium back up, and we're just going to go through some off-field stuff now. I'm going to start with some questions that have been quite frequently asked, so rather than go around the room and everyone ask here and there, we'll just cover them off. The first one, and this is something that came to light last week, and you'll have all seen it, I'm sure by now, is regards to the rent. A Freedom of Information Act came out that showed that the Panthers had rent arrears of £53,512.70. Now there has been an explanation given in the Halifax Courier today, but just for those who haven't seen that yet, Dave, I think this is probably best for you. Can you just explain that situation?
Thanks for that.
You're more than welcome.
Okay, so the statement that went out probably is on the lines of, and is the truth, is I've been on 3 boards here now, and throughout the last probably 7, 8, 9 years, historical debt for the club because of the business model, and it's not down to the boards, it's purely down to the business model that we've got where with tenants we don't earn any monies from drinks, food, etc. We can't use the stadium for other functions. It's a difficult business model. And on the back of that, certain decisions are made at certain times by different boards. And ultimately, the rents obviously got behind. And on our watch, it's certainly, without a shadow of a doubt, is an unfortunate situation. But some of the actual wording and the spreadsheets that have gone out there and people making their own conclusions, one of which was we've not paid anything for 12 months, which is absolute nonsense. So we have. And Damien has worked with the council and we've now got a payment plan in place which we're sticking to, and that debt will be removed at some point in the future. So in terms of are we going to have anywhere to play, the answer is yes. In terms of Calderdale Council's help to get us to that point, I just think probably from all the board we'd like to thank them for that on record. They've been very supportive. And of course in the background what's going on is the stadium itself and what that looks like. So not ideal. I could sit here and tell you many different creditors that we've had difficult discussions with, not just the council. Some are no longer owed money now, others we've managed to clear off, which is all part and parcel of the journey, and it's a difficult one, and Liam's alluded to that about adversity and where we're at as a club and on the field. It's just the same off it. That's business, and to be honest, the stadium coming to light obviously drove a lot of the freedom of information stuff, and there may well be Halifax Town supporters, of which I'm one to be honest, but in the room, and we absolutely fundamentally want this stadium to be for both clubs. And part of the town setup that we've got, but equally we've obviously got to get our house in order, and that's what we've done with regard to that. So I think that's probably as much as I'm going to say on the rent position.
Okay, brilliant. On the
so I think well said. When you read a headline, so for those that don't know, I'm the newest guy on the board, returning recently, and a football fan as well as rugby, so a season ticket holder, a sponsor of Halifax Town over the last few years. When you hear the headline, you can imagine the conversation internally, which is what do you mean we haven't paid anything? And actually, it just isn't the case. We've been paying down, the payments now that are agreed are not just the payments, but it's payments plus, so it's current and then they'll be going down. As a Halifax Town fan, as well as rugby, I say, well, does that mean that this pitch is not going to get sorted out, this clay thing? And I think when you look at the facts, Calderdale Council have been incredibly supportive. They have an average budget this year of 230 million. Okay, their operating budget. There isn't anything not getting done because we're behind on the rent. So I think that's really important. It's not in a position we want to be in, we want to be current, but there isn't anything not happening in terms of the pitch. that we all want to see happen. We all want to see a great pitch, we all want to see the drainage, but the two are just not linked. It's not like, oh, if that rent would have been up to date last year, the year before. And there's times when I know Halifax Town, we've struggled, over 8 years, 10 years, 12 years. It's been tough over them. Thank goodness the football club weren't kicked out of the rugby club. So we definitely want to be mindful of that, is that, we value the relationship, with the council, with the relationship with town. But I don't think it's as simple as just linking those two things that now means Halifax Town, who had a terrible end to the season, having to go out. But what could we do as a club? Do we have to forfeit our match and say no, even though the referees say we've got to play and it's raining? We're not going to play because we want Halifax Town to play next week. We just, are not in a position to do that because the penalties could be even greater for us for not playing. But none of us wanted to see Halifax Town play Accrington or Chesterfield. So, just wanted to make that point really.
Dave, you touched on the stadium then, and talking to another Halifax Town supporter here as well, actually. Can you just give us an update as to the current state of play, any developments, and beyond that, I think your communication of what's been going on with the stadium has been excellent. I think Halifax Town have been notably a lot quieter about the matter. Can you give us some insight into your communication with the football club on this, how they are engaging, what their approach is to the stadium?
Well, clearly I can't speak for David Bosworth per se, but I will say that he's at the table and he's constructively getting involved in discussions, so which is great to see. So that's both clubs and the council at the same table, which I think is a big message to send, as I say, to the football fans, if there are any, and David's actually doing that. I think he had his hands full at the back end of the season with regard to find somewhere to play and all, the games that they had to do. So obviously it was pushed, but kind of took the lead on that in terms of questions for the council relating to the stadium as part of what they call the due diligence. But I kept David involved in all those discussions and all the emails, so he's well up to speed. And I'm sure David will make his own comments at some point in time, but that relationship is definitely there. In terms of where we're at, the due diligence piece is still ongoing with a number of questions that have not been asked, and some of that is around planning permission for some of the potential income revenue streams that if we did get the stadium we would look at doing, but obviously there's council protocol to go through. There's no point wasting time and money if they turn around and say we can't give you planning permission for that. So we've got the next meeting is early June with regard to answering some of those questions that were put to them with their planning department, and then there'll be a follow-up meeting. So in terms of a decision, we can't make a proper business plan and decision, neither club can, in my opinion, until we get all those points clarified by Calderdale Council, which in fairness they are trying to get to us, but we all work at a different pace in terms of private industry and also council. So that's about as far as we've got at the minute. I think certainly another 6 to 8 weeks we'll have built that business plan model to see whether it's a goer or not. But alluding to Damien's point earlier on, and certainly the board's words, not mine, but I agree with, it's a game changer, and it would be for both clubs. And that's to be fair to Calderdale, the council, they've actually said that all the way through, as they want sport to continue at the Shay and Boy, so do we. I think it could be great for both clubs. The pitch is also something that, completely, whilst we're papering over the cracks at the minute with what they're doing. Lee's mentioned, obviously it's not going to stop that, it isn't, but I know David Buzzen has been working for a while on trying to get some FA funding, because, for the football team, they've got to have a certain type of pitch if they get back into the Football League. So that presents its own challenges, but again, we're open to that. Logistically, it's just, depending on who you talk to, it's anything up to 14 weeks to do it, which, as I've explained to you right at the start, where we're at the minute could be quite critical. So I think the two ultimately, hopefully, will end up being intertwined at some point, and we can get a real proper stadium in Halifax that's going to take us into the next 20, 30 years. and get it filled. You know, Halifax down in Football League and us back in Super League at some point would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
I'm going to segue into the last topic that was brought up a lot, and that is IMG. David, this might be a question for you, because I know that you know a lot about the IMG. The stadium, and if you were to, you know more than most, the stadium, if it was to be acquired, what would it do for the club from an IMG perspective, from a financial perspective? I know that ties in with IMG as well. Just how important is it for the club in terms of trying to improve their score?
I think it's massive, really, to be honest. By acquiring the stadium and the second and third order effect of having the stadium, whether it's the bar sales or different events and making money from the stadium and the facility, even if it's just putting 50 pence up on the car park, there's income coming from that. But primacy of 10 years is points straight away. If anyone's seen the IMG and the scoring process, you know, the stadium and the facilities that we've got is where we're currently sat at 9.06. I think one of my first jobs was the indicative grading, and we did a response to that. And actually, I spoke to you, Matt, if you remember, about, you know, what's the message you want to put there, and it was quite interesting. In my first experience of putting something out publicly on behalf of the club and feeling the backlash of that, to be honest. You know, there was comments about, you know, you've got no aspiration and this and that. And I just wanted to be pretty. I didn't want to go promise and under deliver. I think 9.06 we could get to 11.5 this year with the work, because it's averaged out over 3 years how they did the scoring. So and I'm not, this isn't a criticism of anything, but the fiscal side is where we score lowest on the financial. I think it's 0.6 or 4 points. So if we could improve that, and by having the stadium being able to generate more income, then that would automatically improve our points.
So on to IMG, which I know is a very controversial topic, certainly amongst Championship fans. You mentioned the score you got. Halifax were 20th in that indicative table. Obviously the stadium and the finals is something, a long-term aspiration where you can improve the score. What can the club do in the short term to climb that table and improve the score, say before the next grading comes out, which is in October the 23rd, I think it is?
Well, I think there's, obviously, in terms of the primary statistic, is longer than October. Although there's a kind of nuance there that we've just seen with Gateshead being kicked out of the playoffs because they didn't have a 10-year security, which, if the rugby club were to take on the primary tenancy of the club, Halifax Town would, you know, obviously they've got their 10-year tenancy, so it would be a win-win for both clubs. So that instantly boosts the point. It's bums on seats though. I mean, we can do little things. We can put perimeter LEDs round, which we've already had those discussions with companies, and there's creative ways to get that done. But it's about putting people in seats, because I think everything works after that. Because we don't want to be a slave to IMG, but boy, I really like knowing what the numbers we have to hit are, because it's not feeling our way in the dark. So yes, we're a bit hamstrung like a lot of clubs are with a 3-year average, and they started back, so I can't really do anything about 2 years ago, but we can start to do things now. So re-engaging. So I've only been back at the club a few weeks in this capacity, but talking to fans, talking to volunteers, reading the forums, everything's about family. Either you don't have one and therefore the rugby club is your family, or you came with your granddad, your grandma, your mum, your kids, your grandkids. So from my perspective, that's my priority, is re-engaging those people, because we can't recreate Thrum Hall here. You know, we can't. You know, but what we can do is make it the absolute best environment. And some people know I was away in Sydney last week, and you know, NRL's held up here, but there's a lot of similarity in terms of that family, which obviously I missed one meeting and they decided to call a fans forum when we've been absolutely tonked 5 weeks in a row. Thanks for that. Not a marketing plan, that, by the way, but I think it shows the mettle of the board, because it would have been easy and easier to say, let's just see if we can get a couple of results and then try and bring people in front of us afterwards. But that's not really what the club's about. We're through thick and thin, and as I look around, there's a lot of people here who've been through a lot of thick and a lot of thin with the club in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. So I think ultimately bums on seats, recreating that family atmosphere, because I don't think there is a better game than rugby for just that cohesion. And that's my job. You know, we've got one thing underway at the moment which looks like it might add 400, 500 people to the next gate. Tiny numbers in my world, being in television and magazines and broadcasting. But, 400, and then if we can get another 400, we get another 400. The difference to this club of having 2,500 fans, 3,000 fans, 3,500 regularly makes a huge difference. And I think that's where the IMG momentum will then come. Does that sound fair?
Try this one. Last question before I open to the floor. A question that I've seen from a lot of fans, particularly in the Championship, is why would clubs in the Championship agree to IMG when they believe gives them no chance of going up? It gives you no chance of going up. You can't earn it on the field. It's all off field. You haven't got a chance of going up. From a Halifax perspective, why did the club vote in favour of IMG?
So I'll answer that one. The two, again, were intertwined in terms of the board at the time. We're working on how we could improve the club and making lots of different changes. At the same time, the Rugby Football League were having a much bigger picture conversation with IMG around how they could improve the game. And if you remember, those numbers right at the start, 40 million down to 20 million, etc. That was obviously a major concern for them. I personally probably wouldn't have pushed out to give IMG a contract for 12 years, which is what they've done. So whether we like it or not, it's with us. But we looked at that in terms of what we were doing, and then had a look at the IMG profile, and the two were very similar in terms of what we were trying to achieve. We're actually starting to tick some of the boxes on the IMG piece. As regards, I think the actual one I read, the question I had was that there is no promotion. That's not correct. It's down to obviously hitting those numbers, of which rugby does play a part. It's one of the key pillars. It's not the automatic, but IMG, when I sat through those presentations, because I'm old school, me, I'll be quite honest with you, and I've been involved in playing and coaching and watching, and it's promotion and relegation. Best one goes up, weakest one comes down. But when you listen to their strategy and the reasons why, they've done some analytical work on how many teams have gone up into the Super League and then come straight back down. And in their eyes, it was promoting potential boom or bust. You were trying to get a team to get in there, and they weren't good enough, and because they're not playing that level of rugby week in, week out, they weren't ready for it and came back down. So we kind of took a different view in terms of building a sustainable club, which is what IMG is all about. And again, for me, this is just my opinion. It's not being quoted anywhere, but I think there's a mission going on around the clubs that are left being ones that they're comfortable with, that can actually add value to Super League. Where we're 20th, I think you mentioned, didn't you? So I'm not going to put a number on that, but I think there are clubs out there that even in Championship that are not interested in going into Super League. We are at the right time when it's when we've got all our ducks in a row, which we're not there yet, as Damien's alluded to, and finance is definitely one of the key ones, which you know that now. So I think we took a view that it was in line with what we were doing, and there is an opportunity, to the point of IMG was saying if they had 15 clubs who all had grade A, then it'd be a 15-team league. So it's not necessarily restricted to 12 and that's it. The cynic would say it's a closed shop for the Super League clubs that are currently there, and we'll see how all this unravels with London, which was an interesting one, of such a low score, get promoted on the field, well done to them. And then, the likelihood is before they kick the ball, they're going to be coming straight back down. So we're very interested to see how that goes and how the RFL and the AMG manage that one. So I'm not here to speak on behalf of IMG, I'm here to speak on behalf of the club, and we've been in this league now for 20 odd years and not gone anywhere on the field of play. So I believe there's enough talent sat on this stage, to be honest with you, that's going to be able to add value to this club over a number of years, and parcel of that will be that journey for IMG.
Brilliant. Okay, questions from the floor. There have been many emailed in that I couldn't go through, but I'd rather give you guys a chance to ask anything if you want to. So has anyone got a question? Here we go. Okay.
Question for David. You mentioned the, I think I'm right saying 100,000 central funding, central distribution, whatever you call it, per annum per club. Is that for the same for every club in the Championship, or is there variation?
There's a variation on that one for the Championship. It's I mentioned the 75. That's for everybody in League One, but for the Championship, if you finish top, you get a lot more money than you do if you finish bottom.
We're putting a team together to work on IMG, and from my understanding we haven't said anything about it until now. So if we are going to work towards it, would we not be better off every quarter just going, this has happened, this is what we're doing? Because if I'm honest, I'd love to know how many people in the room actually understanding what that process is, and they're the people you're depending on to get us there by coming to more games and buying more stuff and engaging in more projects. Would that not be a better way to go about it, or do you think by keeping it closed it's a better?
No, I think
what's the purpose behind that?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, John, and I think I'll come on to it when I close, but we do some stuff really well, and there's others that we've got a lot to work on, and comms is definitely one of those, and it's a bit like the stadium, and we mentioned that earlier in terms of just put one out that basically was saying nothing, but it was just letting people know that things were happening but unable to report. I think the strategic piece around the IMG is how we pitch that, John, for people to be able to want to understand it, and how we can deliver that professionally and in the right sort of words for them. And I think that'll come definitely, but just the comms at the minute on the IMG piece is, like you said, it's the first time tonight really we've broached that subject, but you'll certainly be getting a lot more, and that's probably where Damien will come in terms of his driver CEO, and IMG piece is definitely a brief in that role.
Just to allude a bit further, one of the first decisions we made when with the IMG piece was actually, are we chasing IMG points, or are we going to change the culture and how we do business at the club? And so the SWOT analysis I did, it was actually, if we get this right and this right and this right, then the second and third order effect of getting them right will increase our IMG points. So it's not a case of chasing after the IMG points. There's a hand, we'll go after them, get the LD balls. It's actually, we need to change some of the culture at the club and how we do business. And I firmly believe if we get them right and we champion them, let people know what we're doing and successful things, then I think the IMG points will be a second order effect of that.
Cheers, man. Hi, Steve Lambert. Hi, Dave. Hi, everybody. Just a question for Dave. Couple of things. First of all, I think to get the stadium, let's be honest, you're looking at 2 to 3 years. Look at the speed of movement. Look at what's got to happen. Let's put conservatives and say 2 years. From Lee's point of view, he says doubling the audience, that's critical to this club, and Lee and I have spoken about that many times. Singly, the toughest thing to do at this club is double the audience. Do you know what that means to the club? It means about 150,000 plus a year, 200 grand a year extra. These fellas have been putting that in, and it's all dropping out of the bucket at the bottom. So if we can mend that bucket and then double the audiences, you've then got the beginnings, and that's the basis of the club moving forward. So it's a tough call, Lee. I don't know how you're going to do it. You know, if you need any help, don't call on me, mate. I'm your Taddy. So that's that. But the other point was, Dave, moving on to the stadium. I don't believe we've got a cat in hell's chance of getting hold of this stadium with Halifax Town in the next 2 years. That's how long it'll take. It will. It's massive. Ask Huddersfield Town and that lot. However, when we're talking about increasing our income streams, so you can't, there's not 100 taps on that wall over there to turn on, there's 2 or 3. And we've talked about Damien earlier on about these, you know, getting into the businesses, long term, etc., etc. The contract for the food and drink in here comes up in October this year. What I want to be assured about is that someone on the board is in negotiations, is talking to, has got a plan, and saying that either Halifax Town and Halifax Panthers or one or t'other will secure that, and we can start turning that match day tap on and get some money quickly. And that's my question. It's a long-winded one, Dave, I'm sorry, but can you assure us that those negotiations are happening?
Thanks for that, Steve. Good question. And a passionate one as well. Appreciate that. So, I'm going to go backwards right to the start now, and the rent arrears question. When I first came back on board, that was a discussion I had 2 months later, once we got to where we needed to get to. I actually brought up about the food and the drink, because I think we're absolutely missing the trick. Both clubs, not just Halifax Panthers, both clubs. And I formally asked the council permission to be able to apply for that tender, which was accepted. So I'll be quite honest with you, I've not touched it as any further than that, other than some discussions behind the scenes about potential providers, as and when. So I'm quite happy to get that common knowledge now, and obviously Difference Group will have, you know, they'll decide what they want to do, but in the interest of tender and the interest of the revenue stream, we're missing a massive trick there, and if we can get that, that would be a catalyst in terms of the first step towards it, 18 months, 2 years, or whatever you're thinking. So yes, I have already planted that seed.
I think the only other thing, Steve, to say is it wouldn't be a magic bullet. You know, we'd have to, you know, we're a rugby club, football club's a football club. Of course, we absolutely want that food and beverage, wet, dry sales. But, you know, that will put its own pressures as well for, you know, probably a year. You know, obviously Difference Group are a good company. They do lots of things outside of the Shay. I'm sure they'd be interested in still bidding, you know, for it. I'm sure there's probably in the room as well, I bet. So, you know, they're a business and a local business. So I think it's, you know, getting all these things and priorities in. Calderdale Council don't want to have 2 years a decision for the Shay. So what it does do is certainly open up different discussions. Because the cynic again would say, well, if you can't pay your rent, how can you afford to buy the stadium? But of course it opens up to different people, different opportunities, different investors, different elements you can do, and food and beverage is absolutely one part of that. And of course we want to make sure as well that, you know, as a Halifax Town fan, I don't want to be moaning about the rugby club taking all the revenue from the food and beverage on their match days. So I think there's a lot of discussions that have to take place, and of course Calderdale being a very upstanding organisation full of professionals, they'll want to go through a process, because while they still own the business, and they still own the stadium, they'll want to get the maximum they can, again reducing their risk, because they don't want to be running food and beverage, so hence why they outsource that for the year.
Yeah, but my point is definitely that if in October someone's got to be supplying hot dogs, beef burgers, sausage rolls, pints of bitter, orange juice and cups of coffee, someone's got to be doing that. Now, if the Difference Group get in and get the contract, whether they do or not, they've got that for the next 4 to 5 years. So if we get this stadium in 18 months' time, we ought to be, I won't go into it, we've got to be pretty certain that we can get that contract and we can utilise it. Look, we're not going to buy it.
We're not going to buy the stadium. No group in their right mind would be saying about buying it. Gate for no, that's what we want. But it's got to be, because we're never going to generate the funds between the two clubs, are we? It's just not on.
Yeah.
So
Something has to change.
if you can grasp that, what a start for all these people. Here, look at here, pint, empty glass there, empty glass there, empty glass there. Every one of those are quid in the club's locker. Cheers. Brilliant. Cheers, I'll buy the next one, yeah, no problem. That's all I'm saying is I just don't want our great club to miss the boat. And we could do with that on the food and drink.
You and I have had a lot of conversations
Yes, we have,
years about this, so we're on the same
Of course
mark.
we are, yeah.
We would absolutely love to have that contract.
Absolutely. Cheers.
There's a few hands raised. I'm going to go over to the gent over there. I think it's a good time to ask this. One of the questions that was emailed in, and it was roughly, what attendance does the club need to break even on a match day? We all know that it's a big driver of money, hopefully, of revenue. What does the club need to hit from an attendance perspective just to break even? Should I come to Sarah Morgan for this one? She's looking on it with regret. We're going to get a solution. Come over. Sorry, Sarah. Over to you.
We have obviously the season ticket income doesn't count on a match day, but our cost just to open the stadium with the stewarding, the first aid and everything comes to about £4,500 per game. And then obviously if we open another stand, it increases again then. Even if we open early, people were saying they wanted the south stand open behind, party atmosphere, things like that. By opening for that hour earlier, you're talking another £600 in staff costs. So it's quite restrictive. As to a number, it's difficult because of the breakdown of the kids and the free tickets and things like that. But you are talking about £4,000 just to cover your running costs on the day.
That's £4,000, not £4,000.
£4,000,
right?
yeah.
I'll let everyone do the maths of how many people need to come. I've got a Jenny who's been waiting very patiently to ask his question.
I've sat up there. It's a very lonely place. What I'd like to say to start with is, key word was volunteer, volunteer, volunteer. This club would not be here without you. So I'd like to say thank you very much. As a shopkeeper, a very old shopkeeper, if you drove past this ground at the top, you wouldn't know there was a bloody thing going on. With a couple of signs, if you're coming from Huddersfield, you would not know what the hell was going on, football or rugby. The first thing I'd do is get a new sign up there, in the middle of the ground, one facing towards Huddersfield, one facing towards Olympics, not an A4, but a bloody big sign on it. That will tell people, oh, there's a game on. Don't rely on the courier. They sell about 5,000, 4,000 copies a week. That, to me, would be the first simple thing I'd do. But, you know, what you guys are doing, just thank you very much, because I've sat there, it's a lonely place. Everybody bloody hates you, and I don't know what money you put in, and you can't do a thing right, so thank you.
Yeah, so I agree on that point, Roger. In terms of the signage, it's definitely going to be something that we're going to be handling pretty quickly. Tomorrow, Damien's already signed up, I think, an agreement with a provider in terms of signage and print. It went out in 56,000 magazines this month, the fixture list. They're all little things but incremental, and to Damien's point, probably over the next couple of months, working with businesses in the town centre, Halifax Bid hopefully, and others, you're going to see a big shift in just the presence just around the town. The skinny 2 scoreboard, or... Yeah. Well, again, it's going to be a list of priorities. I think to extend on Roger's point, thank you for saying the volunteers here. It's the volunteers we've got on a day-to-day basis from the club, actually not sat up here but out there, and people who can't be here today. that really makes things move on. So I think it's on a very long list of things to do. Yeah.
I'll be a bit more specific with regards to the one that was there. That one was there, was gifted to the club. It was on loan to the club, and unfortunately the business what gifted it is has gone into administration. So that big screen there and the one down Salter Hebble is sat now with the recovery people, but we are engaged in engagement with them. There was still some finance left on it, and we're negotiating with those people to get in it with the double side of that. So that's where we are with that.
Any questions?
Just to go on from that point, I was on Commercial Street this morning and I walked past the window on Harvey's and saw the display with the 3 shirts, yeah, and the Halifax Panthers thing in the door, yeah. But the one thing that was missing, following from this gentleman's point, there was no next home game, Doncaster home on the 26th. People looking at the shirts, it's not telling them, come and watch us on the 26th. Can't Harvey's put a sign in the window saying, there we go.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and it's something I'll take up with Tracy, because obviously they've been kind enough to give us the floor space and allow us to be back in there, and there's a cost associated with them to sell our merchandise and this and the other. But what goes on in Harvey's is Harvey's business.
I'm quite happy, it's a good idea.
Well, it's a deal done then. We're in, John. We're in. We're going to monetise it tomorrow, fresh job in the morning. We're in. Oh, absolutely. Thank you very much.
So Rick, thanks.
Rick, do it.
Good evening, gentlemen. It's Peter McNamara. Thank you for the forum this evening. I've been taking notes, as you can imagine. I'm in regular contact with Dave. We do talk and about certain things that we're allowed to talk about. And I've sat here tonight. I've come in like everybody else, quite frustrated and lacking in information, lacking in knowledge, and I think as fans, sometimes on the forums, and I'm no different. You say things, you assume things, you think things, and you become frustrated because we're not hearing anything, and that worries me. Now tonight is fantastic. This is what we need to hear. The key word for me has always been transparency, and I will always say that. And I think you look at the board. I know previous boards. I've been on one. The guys that are on here now, they are giving. I don't agree with everything that's been going on. There's some things that I don't like, but these guys are giving hard-earned money to keep this club solvent, and they probably will keep doing that. My worry is about sustainability. That's my key. We have to be sustainable. We can't keep taking off these men or women, whoever they are. We can't keep taking. We have to look at other ways. We have to change. We have to evolve. Damien spoke. I think you've all spoken really well tonight, and I commend you on that. Damien spoke earlier. Now, I've been a bit frustrated a little bit about certain things that I didn't know about, and I'll probably lay a bit of blame on Damien's door there. But he spoke really well about the foundation, the wheelchair, the ladies, the inclusivity, the college, the talent pathway, the business club, which we had last week, and we touched on perimeter LEDs and the issues with IMG. This is what we all know, all these things, but we don't until tonight. From my perspective, anyway, maybe it's me that's a bit dumb, but from my perspective, we didn't know the intricacies and the additional information, and I think that this is a really good thing from my perspective, and we need to keep this going, this transparency. I am concerned about sustainability, and I've got to be honest, I do think, and that's not to be critical of anybody, because I know that people give a lot of time for nothing and they give a lot of money for nothing. You know, we don't really have tangible assets in the club. We don't. That's my view. We have changeable assets. Those changeable assets are players, sponsors, directors. We don't have any, we can use an example of, and I mentioned it to one of the directors the other day, we play Bradford Bulls on a January. Me and Steve had this conversation, me and Steve Lambert. We play Bradford Bulls in February, and Sky want it, or whoever wants it on a Monday night, and we're at home and it's pouring down, freezing. There's 2,000 people here. We play them on a bank holiday in the summer, on a Friday or a Monday, or whatever it might be. There's 4,500 people here, and they're the changeable assets we have. And the board, and what I'm trying to do is offer an understanding to the public that the board can only, they can't give concrete figures. They're trying to develop a budget based on changeable and selective figures, if you like. It's really difficult for them. So, and I think as a club, we need to be realistic about what we can achieve as a club. We are not a Super League club, and we won't be for some time, if ever. But we need to be a Championship club, and I think Steve mentioned earlier, and a few other people mentioned earlier, the driver for Lee. The key is getting bums on seats. If we can't get bums on seats, we're buggered. If we can't get hold of the dining, no disrespect to the difference group, we have to bid for that. We have to get our income streams into the club, because without them, we're finished. So all I really want to say after that long-winded rant is we have to be sustainable. I do think that right now we're not sustainable. We can't keep taking off very, very generous men who are on this board now. It's just got to stop. So where does the board envisage dealing with that immediately? How do we get away from that model? That's all I wanted to ask you. Sorry about that.
Can I make a point about that? Look at Huddersfield's balance sheet. There's something like 18. The clubs that are sustainable are multi-millionaires behind them. Huddersfield, look at their balance sheet. I think they owe something like £18 million to Ken Davey. I spoke to Ken when we were in Super League. I said, why on earth can't you get your rugby league and football team together? He says, why? It's impossible. You can have your own secretary, one secretarial, one club shop. It's just, if Ken couldn't get it, it's all right saying not sustainable, but you look at the balance sheet of a hell of a lot of Super League clubs, and it's usually, like Lee, it's one guy putting in millions. We've got to be realistic. We don't have a Tony Gartland. Live within our means. We want to watch good rugby, we want to watch competitive rugby, but we want to be here in 10, 20, 30 years' time.
Just on that, if I can, just what Roger said, and just to direct it at what Pete said about being sustainable, and for me, it's about cutting our cloth accordingly. And I can assure every person in this room tonight now, we're looking at every aspect of the business to rein some spending in. And I've had long conversations with Richard Durgan and Liam Fane about next year's playing budget. All right. But then there's a compromise to that. There's a second order effect in military language in that if our playing budget comes down to make us more sustainable, so we're not going to the board of directors and the shareholders every month asking for money to make us make our payroll, then there's going to be a consequence on the playing front, which then might affect how many fans comes in. So it's that circle, but we have to cut our cloth accordingly and rein some of the spending in. It's very, very real, and I'm 100% with your comments, and that's focusing a lot of my time. I took over the financial responsibilities from Dave, who'd been doing it for 12 months as chairman, because he's a volunteer, and he was like, thank goodness we've got a CEO in. But he gave me the slack of 4 or 5 months before, well, 3 months before he handed over those reins. And believe you me, every day I sit down with the staff, whether it's Sarah or Jenna, in there, and we go through the cash flow, what's coming in and what's going out. That's the level of detail we're at right now.
Time's getting away from us, so we are going to wrap this up. If you have any other questions, I'm sure these gents will be staying around and we'll answer them. If they weren't planning on doing, they are doing now because they're going to have to answer. What I'm going to do is let Dave just wrap up proceedings and have his final say before we call this night.
Back to the book. I'm getting old. I can't remember everything these days. Right. Some really good contribution tonight, and thank you for keeping it professional and appropriate. Hopefully you've had your chance to have your say, and I agree with you. I think it was you, Pete, said we need to get that transparency out there more often, and it is something we need to do. And I did allude to this earlier on. It's actually one of my mantras, but you know, people do make mistakes, and you know, we've made them as a board. There's no doubt about that. We've made some good things happen. There's things that we could do better, and I'm sure we'll learn from that. But for me, it's just been a pleasure listening to you in terms of the passion in the room, not just up here, but in this room as well, and that's vital. Back to Lee's point about the volunteers, it also applies to supporters as well. As we can't do it without you guys. You know, you've obviously gathered that from what we've talked about tonight, and you know, absolutely, we'd love to get 2,500 on a regular basis. That would definitely get us to a break-even point. ING World, it's an average of 3,000, so we've a long way to go, but lots of work to do on that. So hopefully you've all had a better understanding now of exactly where we're at as a club, the challenges that it's got, and also, certainly from what Damien's been telling us tonight, some of the great work that's going on behind the scenes, which is probably not just for the here and now, but we're putting foundations in place for the future, and there's some great work going on there. Back to the rugby, sport, it's fact, it's just the way it is, and not everybody can win all the time, and we're obviously at this moment in time, it's our turn to taste adversity on the field. I thought Liam spoke very well tonight, and again was very honest. And I hope we can continue to support him to get to where he needs to get to, and the players. I think a couple of quotes for me is, which I've alluded to as one already, it's not about making mistakes, it's what you learn from them. And we're a learning board, there's no doubt about that. There's people that have not really been to a rugby club or been involved in one, but have that passion, that desire, and at this moment in time, that financial clout, we're grateful for that. I think the big thing for me as another one is in adversity. Somebody alluded to it in terms of being an ex-business person, I think it was, saying that, you know, they got the sleeves rolled up and got in the trenches. You tend to find out in adversity, and I've certainly found out this from personal experience in my life, who your true friends are when you're in adversity. When it's going well, everybody wants a piece of you. But when it's not going well, or you've got your challenges, that's when you find out who your true friends are. So I'm making an appeal now, personal and on behalf of the board, to the true friends of Halifax Panthers. Let's close the ranks. Let's deal with the current challenges that we've got head on, and let's do it together. If we do, I think we'll get through it. And hopefully we'll come out the other side and it will taste a lot better on that field and off it when we get back to where we need to be, which is winning and running this business a lot better than it has been. That's my mantra for tonight. Hopefully you've enjoyed it, you've got something out of it. Thank you very much for attending on behalf of all the board. And also, we just have a big round of applause for Matt for doing the MC tonight. Thank you. Have a safe journey home. Thank you. Thanks very much.